everyone, I'm going to be talking about why I've got this here at the end of the video, but today I am going to be talking about living wills, which are called advanced care planning. So, what on earth am I talking about? A living will is something that anyone can fill out, and it's regarding choices if you're seriously ill or at the end of your life. This is a thing for everyone. The government recommends that everyone has a conversation with their family or friends about their wishes, and basically that everyone has one of these living wills. So you would be able to specify if you didn't want a certain thing, if a certain thing happened to you, or where you would like people to stop. Would you like to be resuscitated? All these huge questions that are awful for a family member to have to decide on your behalf. You can take that into your own hands and make your own decisions. Now, if you think, this might be something that I'm interested in looking into, the website will be in the top link in the description. It's called Dying Matters. It's worked with NHS England and made loads of different resources that are really important to A, start the conversation, and B, get down to the nitty-gritty and how to write it, how to get the bones of this plan. I came across this because I'm in the palliative care side of things. I think it was the community palliative care doctor or nurse that mentioned it first, and then because I go to a hospice for respite, it came up there as well. They are trained to fill in these documents, but if you don't have access to these services or you don't yet need these services, you can ask your GP what it's about and if they would help you make one. GPs will know what you are talking about. I think it's a pretty widespread initiative and most care professionals know about it. I think it's very difficult for them to bring that up and people might be like, what? No, I'm fine. And because you're having that conversation doesn't mean that you're necessarily going to need it, but it's just an important thing to have there just in case things don't go to plan. So this might seem a bit extreme to you if you are healthy and just getting on with your life, but organ donation, that was once seen as a conversation that was very grim and not to be had, really. And that's changed. So you can decide, and it's on your driving licence, if you want to join the organ donation register. I guess this is a bit like that. It's deciding what you want to happen to your body after serious injury or illness that may result in death if there are not measures taken to prevent that. So, as I say, I didn't really know anything about this, and as I've started researching it, I have noticed the actual leaflets in the GP's surgery, in our local hospital, in the hospital that we travel to. They are everywhere, but I guess it's not something you want your eyes to be drawn towards because it all seems a bit grim and but actually I think it's really important that we do discuss with our family members what they would want, because at the end of the day, you don't know what's going to happen when you wake up tomorrow. There is a difference between a living will and a last will and testament, and this is that the living will is a document you, by yourself or with a care professional, work on, and that then stays at home with you or on your person. Then, if you think about a last will and testament, that is very different. So comparisons, you are talking about something that is legally binding and has to be left with a solicitor when you're talking about a last will and testament, and that is certainly not the case with a living will. You have the option to change it. So if you go and you talk about it with your GP and you say, look, these are my wishes, and then 6 months later you get diagnosed with something, you can then cross out what you previously put and change it for your circumstances. And I think that's really important. You do not need to discuss that with your GP. That is your document. A lot of people are now doing these documents as notebooks, putting their what they would like their funeral arrangements to be, or songs or things like that in a notebook in their bedside table, and they tell their family members where that is. And I think that's actually quite a nice way of starting the conversation about death, because it is a thing that happens in life. It will happen to all of us, and it's still a taboo subject to talk about. And I know it's hard to think about death, but I think it gives everyone peace of mind that the right decision has been made. I think it would help healthcare professionals to stop if that is what you have written. I think it will help family members not to be guilt-ridden if you've written your wish to stop. And again, I'll reiterate, it's really important to know you can wake up tomorrow morning and change it. It is not something that is set in stone. Even if you're not convinced, please do check out that link in the description. I think it's a really important topic of conversation to have, and as I said before, it is something that will happen to all of us, and it needs discussion and thought. The kind of slogan of Dying Matters is dying a good death, so dying in a way that you would want. If you want to go into a hospice, have it very peaceful, your family around you, or if you'd like to die at home. The fact that the government in England does suggest that everyone has one, I think that really does hammer home how important this conversation is. I know certainly for me, I'm pulling the bones of mine together, and it's actually making me feel more calm about the situation, knowing that my will protect what I want at that time. And I'm not saying that my family would ever go against that. It's just a terrible situation to be in. If the worst should happen, I think we need to try and get rid of this taboo in this country of death. I think it's so important to discuss, especially if you've got a long-term condition or you are approaching diagnosis on certain things. I thought that it'd really upset me and it wouldn't help me in any way, but actually I think everyone has little worries or things that they wouldn't want to happen to them, and I think it's really, really important that we discuss it. So that link is in the description. They have so many resources. So I was flicking through before about organ donation, about talking to children about death. Obviously not for an advanced care plan for them, but if a parent or grandparent looks as though they're going to die, I think that's a really important resource. There's ones that sit in the GP surgery, how to start having that conversation with your GP or your family. And it's good to add that they're always there. They will always answer some questions if you have any. You can email them over. If you do have any questions, you can leave them in the comments. If I can answer them, I will try my best, and if not, I would refer you to them, because I think they're a really, really important resource, and it's quite sad to me that they're losing most of their statutory funding. They are having to think up ways of funding themselves. They are now charging for leaflets that sit in GP surgeries and other places, whereas all of that was free. And I think it's really important, and I think they've made the right decision to charge for that, but keep all this stuff like the Living Will kit free to everyone. All you need is a printer, or even if you don't have access to a printer, a notebook. I can't think of many things more important I will ever make a video about, to be honest. It does bring a certain amount of peace to you, so give it a go. So about this tube. Those of you that have watched my What is Intestinal Failure video know that my intestines, stomach, esophagus basically all flow the wrong way. My stomach is on drainage, which means I have something called a gastrostomy into my stomach, and then the fluid in my stomach drains out into a bag. But I am fed into my jejunum, which is a part of the bowel. I mean, it'd be a lot easier if you watched the video where I talk about my tube, but I've got a jejunal leg that is fed down that into my bowel. So there's only a very, very small amount of free space for me to do my free drainage. And unfortunately, my gastro symptoms have gotten quite a bit worse. I am not really coping with much of my secretions anymore. My doctors are discussing 2 separate tubes, but for the meantime, I've got an NG down, which is a nasogastric tube. Okay, so my footage cut out there. Basically, I've got a tube in because I've got a dual tube at the moment, which is a gastrostomy with a jejunal leg fed through, so I'm fed into my bowel. But that now means that the drainage isn't enough space because my gastroparesis is getting worse and worse. Even natural secretions and stuff it can't deal with anymore. So that's what's draining out of here, and yes, that is why I am using an NG.